So why a country defaults? It has many several reasons due to which a country default. And what is sovereign default? So sovereign default refers to the failure of government of a sovereign entity to pay back principal and interest payment when they are due. The failure to repay debts owed to creditor may be accompanied by government formal declarations that it will not pay owed debts, or it may be sometimes occur without any formal declarations. Sovereign default countries and sovereign entities like individuals and companies borrow funds in domestic and international bond markets to fund various budget items such as infrastructure programs and healthcare services. A country may issue bonds to investors with a contractual obligation to pay the principal amount and interest to bondholders. The government guarantee to pay bondholders using tax revenues raised from its citizens. However, during the debt, the government might run into cash flow problems due to various factors such as political instability, poor investment, mismanagement of investment funds, and sufficient cash flow impede the government ability to pay back debts. Due to on-time sovereign defaults may result in lower credit rate, increased interest rate, making it difficult for the sovereign state to borrow additional funds from the international bond markets. Understanding sovereign debts. What is sovereign debts? So when investing in sovereign debts, bondholders monitor a sovereign entity, political stability, and financial environment to determine the risk of sovereign default. Although sovereign countries are not subject to bankruptcy laws, is the case with companies and individuals. Cases of sovereign default are common and are preceded by economic crisis. When it happens, bondholders will be at loss since countries cannot be subject to the same legal consequences. Its companies, therefore, when bondholders suspects that government is likely to default on its debts, obligation that might seems review of the interest rate compensate for the increased risk of defaults. So causes of sovereign defaults. The change of government is the first cause of sovereign default. Formal transition from one elected government to another elected government might not change the treasury obligation created by preceding government. However, when a regime change occurs due to a military coup or revolutionary situations, the incoming government may question the legitimacy of earlier debts taken by the various governments and discontinue repayment of current debts. According to international law, such as debts may be considered illegitimate, meaning that they are personal debts of the previous regime and not of the state. In this respect, such debts may not be forcible. For example, when the Soviet government came into power in 1917, all debts incurred by Russian Empire were considered illegitimate and the new government discontinued further repayment. Illiquidity. A country is in default due to illiquidity when it is temporarily unable to meet principal and interest payment because it cannot quickly qualify its assessed base. Illiquidity is considered a temporary setback since the illiquid asset can become liquid again after a specific period. If the asset cannot be sold to raise capital immediately, the state will be able to raise sufficient cash flows to meet principal and interest payment. Insolvency. Another reason for the cause of default. Insolvency is a state where the country is no longer able to honor its debts, liabilities, and faces a sovereign default. A country might declare insolvency for various reasons, including sharp increase in public debts, unrest its austerity measures, and taken by repay debts, increased unemployment, and increased government regulations on the financial market. Sovereign insolvency occurs after years of overspending and emergency budgets, with the deficit being settled using new debts from the domestic and international investor. Consequences of a sovereign defaults for creditors. It's the first consequence. The immediate impact of sovereign default to creditor is the loss of principal amount drawn to the government and high interest owed on the debts. The state might resort to either partial cancellation or decide to restructure the debt, or more occurs when the creditor agrees to partial repayment of the total principal amount. On the other hand, debt restructuring. For the state, when a state defaults on its sovereign debt, it disposes of its debt obligation owed to certain creditor. Reposing of the debts reduce the total debts owed by the state, its creditors, and subsequently the principal interest repayment. Still, when a state defaults on its debts, it becomes difficult for the state to access new funds from the international bond market.